Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to another session of Indian Economy Essentials. Now in today's session, let's have an understanding of what is the discussion all about in recent times regarding inflation. I'm pretty sure in yesterday's newspapers as well as today's newspapers, you might have come across two very important articles which are slightly confusing to some of the students. That is, in yesterday's newspapers, you would have read the article saying that the CPI, that is a retail inflation, has slightly gone above 6%. Compared to last month, inflation has gone up. And in today's newspaper, you would have come across articles which state that the WPI inflation, the wholesale inflation rate, has come down to one of the all-time lows in the last 2 years. Now, some of you would be confused. Why two types of inflation are being discussed? Which is relevant for you? What is important, etc. Now, let's try and understand these very important points. Now, starting with what has been the movement of CPI and WPI. One is retail inflation and the other one is wholesale inflation. What is the basic idea? Whenever the businesses or the traders will purchase in large quantities, we use the term wholesale market. And when we measure the inflation in the wholesale market, that is called as WPI, Wholesale Price Index. And whenever we measure inflation at the retail level, retail in the sense, in the market where individuals buy and consume it. For example, you will go to the market, purchase certain goods and services. I will go to the market, purchase certain goods and services. That is called as a retail market. So in a retail market, whenever we measure the change in the prices or the level change in the prices, that is called as a retail inflation or consumer price index. Now what is the point here? For the month of January, and whenever you come across the inflation monthly like this, please understand they are measuring the inflation rate for a specific month, that is for the month of January in this year, comparing it to the price levels for the same month in the last year. So the retail inflation for the month of January has moved up, has gone beyond 6% to 6.5%. And the wholesale inflation rate has fallen down to the lowest in the last 2 years, that is the lowest in the last 24 months, to 4.73%. Now, should you remember these particular numbers? Absolutely no. Please don't waste your time. What is relevant for UPSC? WPI, whenever you measure that, we consider certain number of commodities, and within the commodities, what has seen the rise, that is relevant for examination. That is, if you look at it, in case of WPI, one group of commodities that has contributed to inflation. Again, I know that some of you will say, sir, but WPI has come down. But one group of commodity that has contributed to inflation has been the group of food and other related commodities. And if you look at the CPI has gone beyond 6%. And what is the importance of that? It has gone beyond 6%, and in the month of November and December, it was below 6%. Now some of you will be asking me, sir, why are you running around 6% like this? Why are you mentioning 6% again and again? Reason is very simple. As per the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, the Reserve Bank of India is supposed to maintain the retail inflation at 4% plus or minus 200 basis points, which is nothing but 2%. Which means RBI is supposed to maintain inflation and allow it to go maximum up to 6%. And for the month of November and December, if you have followed the data, it was below 6%, which many experts said, yes, it is a good outcome, inflation has been under control. Now suddenly for the month of January, you realize that it has gone beyond 6% all over again. Now what is the concern here? Simple. The retail inflation is beyond 6%, wholesale inflation is below 6%. Again, although it is not used as a monetary policy tool now, it is 4.7%. Now some of you will simply say, sir, what is the use of all of this information? Reason is simple. Reserve Bank of India very recently concluded the monetary policy and increased the repo rate by 25 basis points to 6.5%. And if you have followed the discussion, in 2018 when Mr. Shaktikanta Das took over as the RBI governor, it was 6.5. Now it was reduced. Now it has been increased again, reaching 6.5%, completing a rate hike cycle. Now the concern is that whenever the interest rates are increased, the loans will become costlier, affecting the investment and consumption in the market. And many of the experts stated that with the inflation rate, that is retail inflation rate, falling below 6% for November and December, RBI should not have increased repo rate, rather held it stable or reduced it. But now, because the inflation rate again has gone beyond 6%, after 2 months of below 6%, there is a concern that in the coming month of April, when again a monetary policy review will be conducted, the interest rate might be further hiked. Now again, there are counterpoints to this also, but follow this very carefully. One component that I mentioned earlier in the context of WPI, which has contributed to inflation in India, is food articles. What about CPI? What has contributed to inflation in CPI? Again, the same culprit, food articles. Now the concern is that because the food article prices are higher, it may simply contribute to the retail inflation in the coming months. That is point number one. In fact, let me give you a basic idea here. Within retail inflation, you talk about the food inflation, and within food inflation, you talk about cereal inflation. And as per the latest data that has been published, the cereal inflation, which weighs around 10%, has been higher. And it's not just within WPI, even CPI this has been found. That is a concerning factor. Please remember this. So the rate of commodities such as rice, wheat, bread, etc. have gone up. And as a result of this, there is a concern that even in the coming months, the retail inflation could be higher than 6%. In that case, RBI will be forced again maybe to hike the repo rate rather than maintaining again at 6.5%. That is point number one. Second very important point, we often come across a term called as core inflation, and RBI governor stated that core inflation has remained sticky. Now what is the meaning of this? Core inflation generally accounts for around 52% of total CPI. That is, whenever you remove the commodities such as food and fuel, whose prices are very volatile, you are left with around 52% weighted commodities within CPI. And as per the recent analysis, the retail inflation within that, the core inflation has remained around 6%, and that is a cause of concern. If you look at this particular data, even for the month of November and December, where the retail inflation was below 6%, the core inflation has remained around 6%. And the RBI governor says because the core inflation has remained around 6%, it is not very easy to bring it down. It will continue to remain at 6% in the coming months and has remained around 6% for the last couple of months. Very difficult to change it. It opposes a change or reduction. Hence, core inflation has remained sticky. So in the coming months, you need to be focused on two very important components within inflation. One, what is happening to core inflation, and second one, what is happening to food inflation. Right, so these are two very important components that you should be very careful, keep observing. I'll give you a connection to a current affairs point. Very recently, the government of India announced that they will increase the amount of sale of agriculture commodities under open market sale scheme. What do you think is the reason? Reason is simple. Government wants to increase the supply of the commodities, because on the other hand, government of India has announced that they will subsume or discontinue the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, thereby increasing the demand of these cereals in the market. So government would be conducting further more sales of these commodities under open market scheme, ensuring supply increases, market prices will cool down. Now apart from this, right, is India the only outlier in the international market where the inflation rates are at a higher level? Again, the answer is absolutely no. many countries around the world are actually experiencing a higher rate of inflation. The data given here, you can just have a look at it. Russia, Ukraine, Eurozone, South Africa, United States, Brazil, etc. All these countries are experiencing a higher rate of inflation. But compared to these countries, whichever have increased the interest rates, if you compare India, the Reserve Bank of India hike in the interest rates has been much lower. Since the last year, month of April and May, Reserve Bank of India has been increasing the interest rates. Repo rate has been continuously been increased by RBI. But please make a note of this. Although the increase in the interest rates cumulatively account to around 250 basis points, that is 2.5%. In the recent times, the Reserve Bank of India, the hike has been reduced. That is, initially the hike that was done was for 50 basis points. It was further reduced to a hike of 35 basis points, and finally last week the announcement was 25 basis points. So you should be very observant regarding this also, which means that even Reserve Bank of India expects that the inflation is a problem, no doubt. But the worst related to inflation is over. We are slowly and steadily moving towards a controlled inflation in the domestic market. So these are certain very important aspects related to the recent discussion about CPI as well as WPI. Now related to this, a question has been provided here. Please have a look at this. With reference to Indian economy, cost push inflation can be caused or increased by which of the following? Cost push simply means what? Whenever supply side factors contribute to inflation, that is called as a cost push inflation. Rising incomes, does it contribute to increased prices of the commodities? No, it will increase the demand, causing demand pull inflation. So one is wrong, you can use elimination method. So option A and option D are already ruled out. Rising commodity prices such as crude, steel, aluminum, etc. These initially will cause a rise in the WPI, thereby translating to CPI. And that has been happening in the Indian market. Please remember this. So second point is correct. Deficit monsoon will basically disrupt the agriculture sector, disrupt the supply of the commodities, thereby causing a lower supply, causing inflation, a cost push inflation. So third one is correct. Fourth, expansionary fiscal policy will increase the money supply, causing higher demand in the market, leading to inflation. Fourth one is wrong, it will cause demand pull inflation. So 2 and 3 are correct. Right option for the question will be option C here. Now if you like this initiative, please hit the like button. Provide your valuable comments in the section below, and if you're yet to subscribe to Byju's Exam Prep IAS, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.